Welcome back, everyone. Today I'm going to do another video for you. This time it's a little Seascape, which I did this morning, and I really like how it came out, so I'm going to do a larger painting. I believe this is a 14 by 18 canvas. It's going to be sea oats, little Seascape scene. I will try and pop up on a screen reference of the painting that I already did. So you could get to see what I am doing here. So as you can see, I already did the drawing with the vine charcoal, which is easy to erase if you need to and redraw however you need to. So let me show you also the colors on my palette. I don't want to bend it too much because I have some medium here. Cad yellow medium, Cad red medium, alizarin crimson, ultramarine blue. I need to add some burnt umber and white. The medium I'm using, I have it mixed in this bottle over here. It's the medium that I'm using is 70% odorless mineral spirit and 30% linseed oil. So I'm going to start with the sky. I'm using a number 10, one of the Simply Simons. You can get those as Michaels. That's a flat. Let's test this out. Yes, that will probably work. Maybe a little bit more white. So let me thicken that mixture a little bit more. And a lot more medium to make it move. There you go. I'm just spreading the paint first everywhere. Again, if you didn't get to hear, the mixture that I made was ultramarine blue, the dominant color, a little bit of alizarin crimson, and a little bit of cad yellow medium to gray it down, and a lot of white. Make sure you put enough medium to make the paint move. Now what I'm using is a bristle brush, and it's going to leave brush marks, unlike synthetic brush will minimize the strokes. And I want some of the brush marks in there. Keep it live. Now I'm working on some of the reddish tones in the cloud. And we'll work on that even a little bit more after. Right now what I'm after is basically just putting in the colors, and everything will eventually get adjusted. And for the reds, I'm actually using alizarin crimson with a touch of yellow and white. And I'm mixing it around on top of the blue that I had earlier, this blue. I'm mixing everything together because what's going to happen is going to gray down the colors a little bit for me, which is something that it's an effect that I do want. because what's going to happen is when I lay in lighter colors on here, or a little bit more of a pure color, it's going to stand out against this grayish background. Just a little mental note. And if I want an opaque, if I want a more opaque red, then I would have to use a CAD red medium. CAD red medium is more opaque than the alizarin crimson. So always make sure you read the back of your paint, the labels on there. It'll tell you if the color is semi-opaque or I mean semi-transparent, or it's an opaque color. Because if you find that you keep putting on paint and you're not really covering, and the paint's not covering real well, there may be a reason for that. You might want to check the back label and see if the color you're using is not a semi-transparent color. If that's the case, well then, yeah, it's not going to cover very well. So, some people just neglect to do that. They just throw on the paint, figure that, oh, it should cover very well. Well, not really. You have to make sure about that. You have to look the back label, make sure it says semi-transparent. So now what I'm mixing is, I'm trying to make an orange color, but like a muted orange color. So what I did, I used a CAD yellow medium. Let me show you the palette and how I'm mixing this. Well, you probably won't see very well with the glare, but as you can see, I try keeping a little bit within the same value or not too far off. So I use alizarin crimson and CAD yellow medium, and then we'll work more highlights on that eventually. But this is just a start, like a grayish tone. Maybe even add a little bit more red, make it a little bit more orangey. I know all these colors are mixing, and I am fine with that. And you will see why soon. Even if this is not straight, I'm not too worried about that for now. I'll eventually make it straight. Now I'm just trying to lay off some of the strokes, and there you go, make it a little bit more uniform. Alright, so now I'm going to try to lay in most of the colors right off the bat, and then I will go back to the sky, because with the mixture that I have, this will start tacking up just a little bit faster than normal, which is what I want. So I'll be able to add more paint on top of this without a problem. Because some people are asking me, well, how do you get this to dry so quickly? It's because of the mixture that I have, which is like let me repeat it again. It's 70% odorless mineral spirit and 30% linseed oil. So that will set up the paint a little bit faster. Some people make the mixture 50-50. That's up to you, it's optional, it's your choice. But I want mine to dry up a little bit faster. So I'll be able to lay thicker paint on top of this eventually. But we'll get to that. Now I'm going to start working on the water. I'm going to probably downsize my brush. Now I'm going to use a number 8 flat. This one's from Winton. They're not that bad. They're pretty good brushes. They've lasted me quite a while now. So here we go. Put a little bit of medium, ultramarine blue, a little bit of CAD yellow medium, A little bit of burnt umber. Make sure it's more blue. It's going to be dark, and if we need to lighten it, we'll lighten it more. So let's try and make a straight line at least, huh? Yeah, it looks about straight. And don't worry about the colors if it's not right away. That's something we'll work on eventually. Right now I'm just going to show you how I did the ocean. Just plaster it on there. And you'll see why I'm doing this. Why I'm letting some of this background show through. It's nice and thin, which will allow me, one, to go back over it quicker with thicker paint, and two, if I need to add other colors, I could add thicker paints on here. I can adjust the colors eventually. So don't worry about what it looks like right now. Well, at least not all the time. Sometimes I'm able to fix the painting. I'll hold it off maybe for about 6 months or so and see what I did wrong or what can be adjusted. Here I'm using a lot of medium to make these washes. And when I say the medium, for those who still new to the jargon, I'm using a lot of my mixture of the turpentine, the linseed oil and odorless mineral spirit. Okay, so now you can see some of the bottom showing through. I'm gonna let that tack up. I'm gonna work on this part. The main thing is I want to cover the entire canvas, and then start adding some of the midtones and highlight. All right. So now I'm going to go back to my big brush. I'm going to use a mixture of oranges, purples, and a little bit of reds. Really thin, and you will see it's a thin, really thin wash. And eventually, this is where I'm going to add my highlights upon. Okay, and give it the effect that you will see on the final painting. A lot of things look weird at the beginning, but usually they'll work out in the end. So I'm going to start with ultramarine blue, a little bit of alizarin crimson, make this purplish color. Maybe a little bit more blue. I know this looks dark, but worry not, it'll all work out. Now here I drew out the outline of where my darks are going to go, so I'll try to stay a little bit outside those. Now you notice the purple's not totally dark, and that's what I want. I want it to be, I want some of the bottom layers to show through. Yes, I am adding a little bit of orange by mixing alizarin crimson and cad yellow medium. Because what's going to happen, I'm going to use the complementary colors to my advantage by adding, you know, some orange over some blue areas, some blues over the orange areas, and you'll see what I'm talking about once we start getting at that stage of the painting. I'm really scrubbing this paint in. I know it looks green, but don't worry. I think I got this under control. I hope I do. We're going to find out soon enough. Alright. I'm using a little bit of every color. Make it orangey. And if I don't like it, well, I'll change it. I'm not worried about it. It's just I want to get this all the darks in. Okay. I'll eventually be able to judge my colors based off of this. I can feel already this is tacking up already, which is good. I have it on there so thin that it'll the mineral spirit will get this tack in pretty quick. Now remember, oil dries through oxidation, not like acrylics through evaporation of water. Alright. Okay. Okie dokie. So basically it's almost a mixture of what the sky is. I use down here at the bottom just every which way. And then I'm going to lay on the lights and you will see how this is going to work out. So it's just basically giving me a foundation. So now let's start working on the lights. I'm going to use a number 4 round. Okay. All right. Now let's see how pretty we can make this. I'm using cad yellow medium, a good bit of it, and this time instead of using alizarin crimson, I am using cad red medium. Oof, a little bit too much, which will give me, let me see if you can see, probably not very well, this beautiful orange, but the difference between the two would be, and a lot of white, is that the cad medium, the cad red medium is going to be more opaque. Okay, so let's see. Now I'm going about this by memory. I don't have the reference photo in front of me. I'm going to go about it by memory because I just did it this morning, so I should be able to remember approximately. You see how these highlights are popping over this grayish tone sky? And it's okay if some of it mixes together. Before I wipe my brush. So now I put all this paint on, and what I did not do was, because when I put the paint on, I picked up some of the bottom layer onto this brush. Now that's fine, but what I do not want to do is bring that mixture that I put in here down to my pile of paint, because then it's going to muddy the colors. So to keep the color fresh, wipe your brush away. Okay, make sure you get some of the colors off and go back to your mixture If you want to add a little bit more oil to it, make it a little bit more fat, and go on again. See? Keeping the highlights fresh. I just want this kind of like peeking of this sun peeking through a little bit. There you go. And I'm barely putting pressure, barely. And as I'm going up in the sky here, I'm using a little bit less white and adding more red, since I'm a little bit further away from the source of the light. So it's going to be a little bit more orange in color. Now if the colors are not coming out really nice, what you can do is add a little bit of white to your mixture. White will make your paint a little bit more opaque. Let me show you. There you go. It needs a little bit more white. There. That's what I'm looking for. And I'm twisting my brush as I'm going along, wiping it away. Okay. Keep the colors fresh. Wipe it away. Make another pile of color. Oof, that was a little bit too strong. Now it's a little bit more in a reddish orange. What I like about oils is just how thick you can get the paint. Not to say you can't do the same thing with acrylic, it's just with acrylic you have to use this kind of like paste, this gel medium to get it that thick. I think I'm gonna, let me see, add a little bit more clouds on top here on the reddish area. Oops, a little bit too strong. I'm getting some Cad Red medium and a little bit of ultramarine blue. Oh, that's too much. Well, let's see how this is going to work out, because I'm trying to bring down the tone of the red, the intensity of the red. So what I did was add, let me see first if this works. It's a little bit too strong. More white. Okay. To get this color, what I did was Cad Red medium and ultramarine blue and a little bit of burnt umber to bring down the chroma of the red. Otherwise it was like way too red. As you can see right here, it's a little bit more reddish, but it's okay. It's at the base of the cloud, which I'm fine. So remember, twist your brush as you're going along. A bit orangey at the base. I'm adding a little bit of Cad yellow medium to the color. give some highlights at the base of these clouds here. Wipe off your brush, go back in. I'm not really using too much medium at this point. I'm dragging some of the bottom layers as well, and at this point I'm okay with that. And notice the direction of the stroke that I'm using. I'm going this way and, you know, pushing some of the bottom layer into the top layer, so I'll get the mixture, everything will mix in together. See, if I didn't want that, then I'd push from this way and out, but I want some of the mixture to happen, and I'm doing it lightly because otherwise you will remove some of the bottom layers. Let's see. Probably a little bit more cad yellow medium. Yeah. Give it a nice little light source. And see, I'm pushing some of this orange into the yellow. And letting the brush just skip along. We're going to define the water a little bit more. Now, I know I had some waves going along through here, and so let me see. Okay, let me add some white with maybe a little bit of ultramarine blue. Cool it down a little bit. And the waves, what we're gonna do, we're gonna make it a little bit more of an impressionistic style, okay? We're gonna put the waves, I'm scattering them approximately where I want them. And I'm really going light. And you'll see the purpose of this shortly. Because I'm going to work over that base color that I have. I'm going to work over that in a minute. And I will add eventually highlights a little bit more as I go along until I get the feel that I want. And the back wash are going to be a little bit more bluer than the forward mixture. The back wash I'm talking about, these. See how this is lighter, a little bit darker? beneath. Okay, just to push them back a little bit, to let your eyes know. It just tells your brain that, hey, these are a little bit further back. There we go. And we will adjust these. These are not permanent. This will get adjusted, okay, to its final, rendering, I guess I should say. I'm gonna continue sticking to my round brush here. So to make that background color, I'm using ultramarine blue, cad yellow medium, and a little bit of burnt umber to give the color that I need back here. Light touch. See how much darker? There you go. Light touch. Twist the brush as you're going along. Twist the brush. And it's okay if some of the background or the underlayer colors come through as you're skipping along. Just gives it, like, you know, more not character, but gives it more texture, I guess I would have to say. And some of the grayed out bottom layers that are lighter just gives it that feeling of distance. And it's okay if it's choppy in the back. It'll just say, you know, it just says waves. This time I'm going to start adding in a little bit more yellow to the mix. So it's going to be a little bit darker green in the background. And if some spots are darker than others, that's fine. There you go. See, now I'm going to start working in between the waves. Going to give this a little bit of darkness, make it look like it's rolling. Same here. There. It gives impression of, probably should need to add a little bit more medium. These choppy strokes just give that impression of movement. Alright, probably add a little bit more blue. And the reason why I say that, watch what I'm going to do here. So now these waves are rolling. This is one roll here, so I'm going to add a little bit darker color. And this will get adjusted. The lighter tones are going to get adjusted. The wash is going to get adjusted. Pardon me, I'm having a hard time talking and painting at the same time. Same here. I'm going to give this some direction. I'm giving the viewer directional how the strokes are telling the viewer which way the waves are going by doing this number. Okay, I'm not just doing it straight down. The waves are going this way, so go with the direction of the wave, the direction of the roll. And I'm using light touches. Probably a little bit more blue and yellow. And I may add some highlights here and there in the waves. All right. Now a little bit more yellow as I keep coming forward. A little bit of white. Let's test out the color. Okay, that's fine. Just choppy strokes forward. And by doing a chop, you'll get to see some of the bottom layers, which is fine. Like I said, add texture. And I might even add a little bit more white, wash. It's all about giving an impression. Okay, it's not. I'm not trying to give you all the info. Just want to leave some to the viewer's mind. All right, I'm going to go with a little bit smaller round brush here. This is a number 1. So let's see what kind of magic we can do with this. Now there's a little bit, there's a little hint of cad yellow in this mixture. I want it to stand out a little bit. And I'm keeping the mixture thick. Add maybe a little bit of medium. Add a little bit of mediums for it to glide a little bit. So as you can see, it's a little bit thick on my brush. I don't know if you were able to tell that, but define the waves a little bit more. Add highlights where you deem necessary. It's okay if the colors mix a little bit. If I don't like it, I could always change it. Twisting the brush. As soon as you run out of paint, add more. Okay. I'm gonna have to add a little bit dark under here to show the roll, but I just want to continue working on the highlights a little bit longer. This is the tedious. Look how I'm holding my brush pretty loose, okay? Pretty loose. Keep it loose. Twist it at the same time. Go back into the mixture. Maybe some in the back. Add a little bit more blue to this yellow mixture, this white and yellow mixture for the back. Let me fix this one a little bit more. Give some of the forward whitewash. I'm just skipping along, that's all I'm doing. Just skipping, holding the brush pretty lightly. I'm not going to give too much interest in this area because this is where a lot of the darks are going to go. Oops. Let me add a little bit of dark here to define. I'm just defining the wave. Okay, so a little bit of sun popping through. All right, now you just saw how to do some impressionistic waves. We started out with just a base color, and as we progressed forward, I added a little bit more yellow and white to the mixture. So these colors were done with a little bit of ultramarine blue with a lot of white. Okay, just to make it pop a little bit for me. Show some of the wash, and I kept a little bit darker blue on the back. Just as you can see the waves fading in the back and these come forward. All right, just to give it contrast and color. So now you saw how we made something out of nothing. Now what I'm going to do is start working on the darks here to do for the sea oats, and I'm going to add a second one here. This is pretty much ready to have colors added to it. All right, for the darks, what I'm going to do ultramarine blue, burnt umber, maybe a little bit of alizarin crimson, and a little bit of my cad yellow medium. Yes. So I remember the overall general shape of the sea oats. A little bit greenish, or more bluish here and there. Darker here, darker there. You're like, oh no, didn't he just... Yes, I did. And you'll see. So now I'm going to just add a little bit more. My wife is cooking at the same time, making some delicious paella. I'm sure a lot of you know what that is. It's a Spanish dish, except she's making it seafood, with seafood, with a lot of saffron. I don't know if you guys like that. I'm using the edge of my brush here to do this. It's going to help give it the seagrass some form. And I'm going to add, you know what, while we're at it, the other one here. Where do I want? Like this. Here we go. I'm not too concerned how the darks are going on there. Some people say, you know, I should probably have done this at the beginning. Yes, I know, but sometimes there's a reason why I do it the way I initially do it, like this, because I know my style of painting and my process, and I know where I can, you know, cheat and where I can, you know, not cheat. Okay, so I'm already giving it the shape like it's going to be a little mound here. Okay, and same thing here. And now we're going to start adding the highlight to this. So I'm going to start working on the orange parts here from the sun glow. So here I'm going to work a little bit more opaque color, which I'm going to use Cad Yellow Medium, and I'm going to use thick, and Cad Red Medium, and lots of white. There you go. I know it looks more orange, but like I said, these are midtones, and we're going to work with highlights. And it's okay if the bottom layers mix in together. Not too concerned. And it's okay if some of the bottom layer shows through. See, the bottom layers already pretty much set me up for what was to come afterwards. Throw a little bit of reds. Now look at the direction in which I'm making the strokes, because if I did it like this, then it would indicate the sand is just flat. Okay, like there's no little hill or little mound. And I will use gradation. Look, if I use a little bit of red, still kind of on my mid-tone colors here. If you find that your paint's not flowing very well, add more medium. It'll help with the flow. Okay, I'm using ultramarine blue, burnt umber, and I added a touch of yellow. This is just to indicate it's blocking the sun a little bit. So now you just see your cools and your warms interacting. Add a little bit of red here and there, just plopping mixtures. And if they mix a little bit, I'm fine. It only makes my highlights brighter when I need them to be. Okay, so now working on this part. Blur this line here. Kind of mix everything together so that make it lighter. Excuse me. Gray that color down a little bit since it's far away. Because if you leave it too sharp of a color, then your eyes will give too much of a direct contrast. So I'm just blurring the lines a little bit by graying down the color by adding ultramarine blue and a little bit of burnt umber to the mixture, because burnt umber will and ultramarine blue will automatically make like a grayish tone. Remember, this is very impressionistic painting. I just want to give this painting some movement, some feel. All these colors I'm using are grayed down a little bit by mixing with the surrounding colors, which means the purples, the reds, the blues. Letting them mix into each other a little bit. Because all this background is really not where I want the interest to be. It's mainly going to be in the foreground. So I dulled down these colors here, and by dulling down these colors as well, what's going to do is make this stand out even a little bit more, give this a little bit more contrast. Final stage of this painting. So for the grasses, I'm using yellow, cad red medium, and lights of white. You see, by making those mid-tone colors, how these colors come out a little bit more. And I'm using thick paint. And I will vary the tones of orange and red and use white. Let some of these colors mix in together. And see, some of the underlying colors are showing through as well. And this is why you set it up from the beginning. Actually, I want to use some of these same colors back here. Just a little bit more muted. Almost as if you're painting waves. Because remember, sand has ripples too. Basically, the sun's hitting some of these highs and lows of the sand. It's okay if it mixes in with the background. I'm letting some of these colors mix. Let have some of these cool and warms play off each other. So basically the same mixture I'm using here as well. Because of the surrounding colors which they're being added around, will give it a different look. As you can see here, it's darker, and here you're like, why does the color change? The optical effect, otherwise it's the same color. Just making that sand look like, you know. Gonna give you a little pathway here. Still going with the alizarin crimson and cad yellow medium are the colors that I'm using to make the highlights on the sand. There. A little bit more white. Burnt umber, ultramarine blue, alizarin crimson, yellow. Try and make this like a really grayish green. Over these dark colors. Now you see why I did a kind of stripe, and you will see in a minute some of the other colors I will introduce into this. Sometimes using the edge of the brush to use almost like a liner. I'm letting some of the underlayer show through in the grass. A number 4 round, throw a little bit more highlights. I'm using somewhat thick paint. And I'm rolling the brush as I'm doing this. I'm just barely touching. Notice how I'm holding my brush, going almost parallel, and flicking the brush as well. All right, now I'm going to show a few more stems coming up from the side here. Show some space. You know, you always have those few stragglers in the sand. And it's okay if some of the other paints lift. All it does is really give you some extra space. All I'm doing is using a variety of mixtures of darks that I have sitting on my palette to produce what I'm doing right now. I'm not using one color in particular. You know, burnt umbers, some of the alizarin crimsons, a little bit of yellow, give it some orange, some blues. Just using variety, just to do the same thing here. Já besoin d'être chez? So now I have let this set up a little bit. I'm gonna try and work on some of these sea oats right over here. So, and keeping with the other one, we're going to go a little bit of cad red, yellow, we'll put some medium for it to flow a little bit easier. I'm using the straight edge of the brush. I don't know if you can see it. Instead of the flat part, I'm using the straight edge right here just to make, I could use a liner, but I have this, you know, it's all about using your tools however you can. And it really makes some really nice, it really makes some nice effects. You can actually make some pretty fine lines with it. as well. You have to get two. And for this green that I just mixed, I use cerulean blue and yellow. Yeah, it works. To make this beautiful green that's going to mix. Not too much, there you go. I use a number 1 round. Give us ultramarine blue and a little burnt umber. I'm sorry. Give some. Again, notice how I'm holding my brush really lightly, almost parallel to the canvas. Let me make little holes here and there. Give some this feeling of space in between. Kind of like sky holes, but these little space in between make it look like there's like, I guess trying to make it look like an airy feel, more of an airy feeling. There's like openings between the leaves that you can see through. There. Really, at this point, I think I could call this pretty much done. Trying to see if there's anything else I left. All I need left is just to sign my name and call it a day.